Welcome into Frogs Today here post-game as the Horned Frogs fall in this one, 65-7 the final. Georgia wins it here in the National Championship game. Folks, no one saw this coming. We know that. Obviously, the way the Horned Frogs had played all year, they'll finish 13-2 on the season. But as that old adage says, sometimes you just run into a buzzsaw. And today, as Georgia likes to say, they were chopping wood from start to finish, really on both sides of the ball. Frogs never got in any rhythm offensively. And this defense could not get Georgia off the field. Could never really force a punt. They just did it twice on the day, did Georgia. So where do you start with this one? Well, we've got reporters in the field to talk about it. Let's start with one Jeff Wilson, who talked to the TCU players to try to find out exactly what went wrong.
Brian, I talked to probably 6 players afterward, and there was not a same answer as to what might have gone wrong here. Max Duggan, the leader that he is, he took the blame for putting the team in a hole in the first half. Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, the Jim Thorpe Award winner, is the nation's best cornerback. He said that the Frogs came out flat. Josh Newton, his counterpart on the other side of the field, said the defense just couldn't get lined up. I thought it was kind of telling that Johnny Hodges, who's given us great answers all year, he said, look, Georgia's just that much better than everybody else. So there's a lot of things. Georgia had a hand in it, but the players did agree that they played their worst game of the season. There's no real way to look at it otherwise, and it's hard to argue with. The balls that Max Duggan usually completes didn't get completed. Receivers who are usually covered were not covered. They were not able to get to Stetson Bennett at all, and the times that he did, he was able to get away and make a play. So it was a tough night all around. They were all fairly stunned, I think, that this had happened. Steve Avila, the great lineman, was teary-eyed, and Johnny Hodges was his usual self, but it seemed like maybe a little bit of disbelief. Josh Newton was definitely not at all happy. Those guys who are coming back, like Hodges and Newton, they have a little extra fire in their belly now. They don't want to see this happen again. But one other thing they could agree on is that they don't think that this performance on the national stage, Steve Avila called it embarrassing. They don't think that this takes away from the season. It's one of the best seasons in TCU history. Ended on a real sour note, but this group is going back to Fort Worth holding its heads high.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, I understand. A lot of decisions to be made, a lot of questions to be answered, and those questions and answers will start to come really here in the next month or so. And that's what our own Jamie Plunkett talked with Sonny Dykes about. What is the plan here over the next 30 days to make sure that this was not a one-hit wonder for the Horned Frogs and that this game here doesn't affect next season?
Yeah, Brian, we had a chance to talk to Sonny Dykes after this game, and he mentioned that while the sting of this is going to last for quite a while, he's going to get back to work tomorrow. There's really no rest for the weary in this industry. It's almost ironic that about 24 hours after he said there needed to be mandatory time off for head coaches, he said that he was going to get right back to the drawing board on Tuesday when they get back to Fort Worth. That while they're going to process this loss, they're going to evaluate what went wrong for the Frogs on Monday night here in Los Angeles. They're also going to take the next month to get some of the younger players on campus. Kids are moving in for the spring semester. They've got a lot of young guys that they need to get onboarded into the program, and they're also going to take some time to finish out this 2023 recruiting class, and that they're going to continue to look forward to the ways that they can prevent this 13-2 season and making the college football playoff from being a one-off experience for TCU and for its fans. He's taking the next month to really bear down and figure out a way to carry the overall momentum of this season into 2023 and 2024.
Thank you, Jamie. Now the question is, was this a big difference between these two teams? Was there that big of a difference as far as talent and depth is concerned between Georgia and TCU? That's a question a lot of folks are going to ask themselves. I think this is a one-off game. TCU just didn't play very well, and Georgia played extremely well. Our own David Bowden now takes a look at next steps for this program to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, Brian, I think that process has already started, to be honest with you. When you look at the recruiting class, being a top 20 recruiting class and landing some guys that TCU would never be in the conversation on early on. And then now all of a sudden this past week you had transfers in, 6 of them. You've had big-time former 5-star commits transfer in or commit to transfer in for this next semester already. So when you put that all in perspective, really the process of taking that next step and that extra building block has already begun for this team. Certainly they'll take the momentum from this season and add to it. And then Sonny said, look, tonight sometimes you just get into a team where things don't go your way. You do some things uncharacteristic. He said, look, we had 3 false starts maybe the entire season, over 1,000 snaps. And on that first play of the game, they started with a false start, and that was kind of indicative of the rest of the game. And sometimes he said, you go up against a team like this, you do some things that aren't characteristics, and things just snowball against you. And that's exactly what happened tonight. You've got to kind of look at that in a vacuum, make those corrections, but really not let it mess up with the momentum for the entire season. I think that's the key. So they've started that process already, and I think they'll continue to build on that and more of a macro view here.
Our team of experts here from Frogs Today joining us. Thank you very much to Jeff Wilson, to Jamie Plunkett, to David Bowden, to Melissa Treibwasser, to everyone who helped make this week of coverage here in Los Angeles possible. Especially thank you to our friends at Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services, and to Regions Bank for their support of our ability now to bring you what we think is the best coverage for TCU. Wall-to-wall coverage of the Horned Frogs is right here at Frogs Today and FrogsToday.com. That does not stop with the end of this season. David Bowden is all over the recruiting trail, as we've talked about, and as you've seen here. We'll continue to reflect on this magical season, and buckle up. Spring practice is right around the corner. We'll be there every day to deliver you all the latest TCU football news. Now, don't forget, we're also covering basketball and everything else TCU related. That cranks up on Wednesday night as the Horned Frogs get set to take on Texas, and we will be there with you. We encourage you to like, to comment, to share, and subscribe to Frogs Today and FrogsToday.com. We need you so we can continue to support you and the Horned Frogs with this coverage, all right? For our entire team, I'm Brian Estridge here in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium reporting.